And it's about, oh, I want to meditate, I want to visualize, I want to bring this into my life. And that worked pretty well to some degree. But as I started to do it, as I started to learn, I started to realize that the actual act of meditation or prayer was the gift in and of itself. And when we slow things down, we just start to see more clearly. And when we see more clearly, we can make more informed decisions.
Over the time of working with you, one thing that I felt like I definitely started to rewire was first looking for the good. What should I be celebrating that I maybe just glossed over?
I know next week's going to be tough. So I paused for a moment. I said, what's the difference between thinking and knowing? And so we talked a little more. She came to realize that that was in her thinking. It's a belief. It's something that she just happens to be thinking about next week. If you're talking about evidence shows that we are right here, right now. Ego. We talk about in spiritual circles, we talk about ego. We're not thinking about the past, we're not thinking about the future, we're in this present moment, and the ego can't stand that because the ego lives in the past and the future.
Welcome to Soul Pod, where science meets mysticism and your inner wisdom leads the way. All right, welcome back, light beings. So excited to be in conversation today with a special guest, my coach. So I'm bringing you the person that I go to for support. And Bryan has really been a guiding light for me. And you might wonder, Crystal, you do all this meditation. Why do you need a coach? I am in my human experience as well. And so we're navigating that intersection of the being and the doing. And I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Bryan, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And one thing that I'll challenge just off the bat is like the idea that you need a coach. Crystal, I don't think
Tell me more.
I don't think you need a coach. I don't think any of my clients need a coach. I think that it's what you're choosing. And it's like, some people like to read, some people like to meditate, some people like to pray, some people like to go in person, some people like, whatever you need to, whatever you enjoy doing. I think that coaching is something that you've chosen because it's something you enjoy. And it's something you find to be valuable, but I don't think you need Bryan Winston. Bryan Winston died today. I have a client one.
I love this reframe right off.
I have a client,
right off the beat.
One of my longest standing clients. I forget how I got him to say this, but at one point he goes, "Yeah, if you died, I'd find another coach." Thanks. But it's the truth, though. I mean, it is the truth. Yeah. He said it in jest, and he said it joking. Yeah. But I know it's the truth. Like if I wasn't here, you'd find another way.
It's such a good point, and it really brings me to this concept of support as a whole. So we're all navigating this life, which is particularly chaotic out in the world right now. And like you mentioned, there's all these different ways that you can choose. Nobody really needs anything, but that you can choose to help you navigate life. And you're totally right. For me, meditation is that like foundation. That's what I've chosen. And there's all these different like really interesting perspectives. And I think working with people like you, with other human beings, that we can be such a mirror for each other.
Yeah.
And I know you've been that for me in so many ways. And one of the things that I love about you, Bryan, is that you balance, I think uniquely, the space, at least for me, you've held this space where both the spiritual, mystical components of the self can be seen and witnessed and processed in some ways, and the day-to-day, like entrepreneurial, reaching goals, the business side, the relational side. And so how do you think about all of those aspects of human potential and how we help support them?
Well, first I'd like to speak to you, Crystal, and say that, that's what you get from our sessions, right? Because of how you show up to them. You are brilliant. And so you don't need me to tell you to look in. I mean, maybe it's a good reminder to look inward or to slow things down. I remember one time we started to talk more on like the analytical side of things. And it was about like how much, like what you had to do and like the tactics you're using and the strategy. And I just sat there I sat there for about 15, 20 minutes just watching how well you understood that. And I realized she doesn't really need, she doesn't need me to be here for that. That's not the coach she needs. She just needs a space. So she needs a space to slow down. And when we slow things down, we just start to see more clearly. And when we see more clearly, we can make better. We can make more informed decisions. And so I give that space. I do my best to give that space. So, we talked about need, we talked about want, we talked about desire. But some people really value that space and that time. Me personally, I'd love spirituality. I love, love spirituality. I love, if I turn this camera around, you see the books that I have. So I'm quite obsessed with, the psycho-spiritual and with success in general. So in my coaching is informed by that because it is who I am. So I bring myself to these sessions. And so that's what you're experiencing, and to be someone's advisor. I'm not really interested in being someone's advisor or someone's guru or so. I'm not interested in being any of those things. I want to be. Have you watched Game of Thrones? Did you watch Game of Thrones? I don't remember.
Yeah.
So I really like the hand. I like the idea of being the hand.
Oh yeah.
I really like that.
That's an interesting archetype. Yeah.
I love that idea that it's not about being king or being queen. It's being the really powerful support for that king or that queen. The king or queen is already a powerful person. They don't need someone to say, do this, do that. They just need to have that person that they can go to, that they can trust, right? And can help them to move forward in what their endeavors are.
I like that.
I hope I answered your question.
You did. You totally did. And when you talk about holding space, and you hold space for so many different types of people, each person has a unique constitution that they're coming to you with. I'm curious, what are some learnings or strategies that you've developed to be able to hold space for people in the way that you do? Because I think that really applies or could apply to so many people and how they hold space in relation to other humans on a day-to-day basis. Yeah.
One thing I've learned from some of my mentors is the ability to be on someone's side. So in NLP, we talk about building rapport with someone. And what does that mean? It means really building a connection with the person. So I think that's generally the first step, is to stop for a second and listen and really be on someone's side and connect with that person. I think that's the prerequisite to any relationship or to any conversation, is connection. That's what we're really here for. So let's start there. Early in my career, I would really quickly, and I did it on this call, challenge you right away. But you and I have rapport already. I would go quickly to challenging people on things. They come in with a thought, and I was quick to challenge it. And sometimes that's helpful for people to be challenged in a sharp way. But I learned from one of my mentors, Stephen Leeds, is to really be there with someone and be on their side. Right. And that the challenging can come later, and it can be done in an artful, more gentle way. But the main thing is to really be on someone's side and to really build a rapport and let them know that they are heard and understood. I think, if you talked earlier about a lot of the challenges we're having in the world, right? And many people talk about how divided we are. How do we get past that? Well, we start to say, okay, well, what's going on over there? Oh, first of all, over there, come on, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would make me feel that way? What would make me come to that conclusion? What would make me have that stance? And start to really try to understand. So to answer your question, the first step is really to slow down and seek to understand someone and to be on their side. I think that's really helpful. That's the main thing, I think.
Yeah. And that's exactly where my mind was going, was the collective and the challenges that we are seeing today and recently. And what you're talking about really is the ability to empathize with someone, right? To put yourself into someone's shoes to the best of your ability, not lose yourself in their shoes, but to seek to understand before being understood in some ways. Is that how you think about it?
Yes. If I'm in service of you, of course I want to be aware of me, and but it's more important for me to be aware of us, of the one, and that we are connected. And we only way we really start to understand someone else is attempting to see things from their standpoint, from their perspective. We can never truly see things exactly from someone else's perspective. It's always filtered through the lens of our past and our own thinking, own personal thinking. But the attempt, we come close, right?
We come close. We're never
come close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always going to filter whatever you say through my own experience. At least I think. But the attempt at trying to let me get to where I can understand you, and maybe I don't know what your sadness feels like or what your anger feels like, but it's probably, I guess that it's similar to mine. I mean, the things that trigger it may be different, but I know what it's like to feel sad. I have my own version of that. I know what it's like to feel upset or frustrated. I know what it is like to feel happy. I know what it's like to feel excited. So what's going on with this person over there, and what's it like for them? Is generally the first step, I think, in supporting someone.
And so much of this is curiosity that you're talking about. And curiosity, to me, in holding space for another, it requires you to also be curious about yourself. And in that curiosity, there's like this white space. There's this potential. It's like, wait, what do I not yet understand? That's what I love about your coaching sessions too, is I come into it with curiosity about what I'll discover about myself and my relationship to life. And you hold that space for me to do that exploration. And we don't get, unless you really engineer this into your life, and you can. And that's part of how we support people in Soul Pod on the spiritual side, is to help you engineer that space into your life so you can sit with yourself and be curious and listen. And I'm constantly surprised by myself. That's what I find so interesting, is I'm always discovering new aspects of myself. And one thing I discovered with our sessions was we would start the session and you would always ask me, what's going well? And at first, I had a surprisingly hard time with that, because we're kind of engineered, especially in the busyness of the workday, to really be focused on what's not going well. Where's the problems? Where do we need to plug the holes? Where do we need to take care of somebody in our lives? And so over the time of working with you, one thing that I felt like I definitely started to rewire was first looking for the good. Of like, wait, what is going well? What can I celebrate? What should I be celebrating that I maybe just glossed over? And it can be small, it can be big. But tell me more about that practice of like re-engineering how it is that we relate to ourselves.
Yeah. So 90%, if not more, of my sessions, whether it be group sessions or whether it be one-on-one sessions, starts with what's going well. What are you happy about? I guess the original idea is that it's like a warm up. Like, we're gonna look in. So let's warm up a little bit. Let's get thinking. Let's get talking. Let's get communicating. And the gratitude, if we're talking about the levels of consciousness, gratitude is high and is a high level of consciousness, right? Being grateful, being appreciative. So I want to start the call in that high level of consciousness. I want us to start with what's going well, and eventually we'll get to the problems and the challenges and getting into the shit, right? But let's start with what's going well first. And it's surprisingly challenging for some people, that warm up. Hey, what's going well? Tell me 3 to 5 things that are going well. And in the beginning, when I first start working with certain people, it's like we can spend 30 minutes just on trying to get 3 to 5 things that are going well, because they're so used to the practice of thinking about looking at the holes in the Swiss cheese. Right.
Yep.
So that became a part of my practice. Tell me what's going well first, and let's sit with what's going well. And sometimes I'll even go further. I'll go, "Oh, how are you responsible for what's going well?"
Right.
Because we can start to think that, oh, the things out there are going well, and I got nothing to do with that. But you and your life, you and your life are one and the same thing. You're not separate from your life. So, sometimes I'll go to, what's causing things to go well, and then we'll go to challenges and things like that. But I just think it's really helpful to start off in that really high energy of gratitude and appreciation. It's what we all really want to. If you think about it, like if you think about the word appreciate, you could think about that one synonym is thankfulness and gratitude. Another way of looking at it is the opposite of depreciate. Right, to lose value. So appreciate is to gain value, and to depreciate is to lose value. So let's raise the value of this conversation. Let's appreciate this conversation, and start off in that level of gratitude. So that's where that starts for me. And that's the idea behind it.
And we love to talk about levels of consciousness. So why don't you share with us? How do you think about consciousness? You've been deep in these spiritual spaces as well. How do you think about consciousness and the levels that we're moving through?
Oh yeah, the levels of consciousness. I've been taught different ways of thinking about the levels of consciousness. In my coach training, we learned 7 levels of consciousness, and then you and I have spoken about David R. Hawkins, and he has a scale of consciousness from 0 to 1,000. And it's basically perspectives. The best way of thinking about it is perspectives. And at the highest levels of consciousness, there's less of a narrow perspective. It's more of a broad perspective. And when we go to the lower levels of consciousness, the perspective gets thinner and thinner and thinner. So one is more expansive. One is more infinite, boundless. And one is finite and small. Right. So on one side, there's, I guess we can call it God energy, and on the other side, far on the other side, is ego. It's the smallness, which is actually nothingness, right? Such a small sliver in relation to infinity. So that's the levels of consciousness. And if you learn from Abraham Hicks, also talks about levels of consciousness, and the way that she talks about it, it's really interesting the way she talks about it in relation to emotions. She talks about it, right?
Yeah. It makes it easier to connect with. Yeah.
Yeah, she does a really great job. Or she, who knows?
Right.
But we'll say
Hicks channels.
Esther Hicks channels.
Yeah.
Abraham.
There we go.
Yeah. So they do a great job with making that really accessible and understanding levels of consciousness in relation to emotions. But so I guess what's your question about consciousness? Because consciousness,
I mean, it's a big, what is
consciousness?
The biggest.
We could talk forever about that. But
the biggest topic. Yeah, I like to think of the levels of consciousness similar to what you just described. And for me, I kind of put it into a funnel. So like you're saying, at the top of that funnel, it's opening up this aperture, your ability to perceive, like you're saying, and you have an increased perspective. And the bottom of the funnel gets more and more narrow, more and more constricted, more and more limited. It doesn't make it, one's not better than the other unless you put it into the context of how much do you want to experience, right? So if this existence is about experience more than anything, then the question is, how much experience do you want to experience? And then you experience more at these higher levels of consciousness. So I think that's why there's this slightly natural momentum from the limited perspective into the broader perspective. And I think that's what drives the evolution across the universe in some ways.
Yeah.
But I wonder I'm curious if you have any experiences of your own consciousness in meditation or anything that you're comfortable sharing that you've explored and how that's contributed to how you approach your work.
Yeah, in times of stillness, it's funny. I have my own struggles. As a coach,
We all do.
we all do. I have my
Yeah.
struggles. I have my challenges, and those struggles and challenges have brought me to personal development. And the more I've gone into personal development, the more it's gone from just trying to manifest and make things happen out there to understanding this more of an internal, this more of an inside out um, experience. And in my times of stillness, I've come to realize that I've gone in. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. So when I first started going into meditation, it was because I wanted something. Right. So you go and you meditate or you visualize, and it was about that. And it was about, oh, I want to meditate, I want to visualize, I want to bring this into my life. And that worked pretty well to some degree. But as I started to do it, and as I started to learn, I started to realize that the actual act of meditation or prayer was the gift in and of itself.
Beautiful.
Taking that moment at the end of the day, or at some point in the day, and just letting it be quiet. Just letting, like at the top of the call, that quiet to a busy mind is such a relief, and it's so refreshing for me to just sit for a second instead of I'm going to try to visualize, I'm going to try to make this thing, I'm going to get clear with my goals, I'm going to say the thing over and over again. It's like, well, that mental chatter, shut the fuck up. Like, just like there's a beautiful thing in just being able to just sit, let that stop for a moment, or not even stop, but just to step back from it, because that doesn't really stop. Just to step back from it. And then the idea of presence. I was just talking to a client right before we got on this call. I was talking to a client. She's an attorney, and she's talking about she wants to bring more presence into her life. But she's so stuck in thought. She's so, like many of us are so stuck in thinking things through. And I have to think this through. And I'm already dreading this thing. And we started to talk about, okay, so if that's one path, what's another path? And the other path is just, at one point I said, because she said, what did she say? I can't remember what she said, but it was basically like, I know next week's going to be tough. So I said, well, what's the difference? So I paused for a moment. I said, what's the difference between thinking and knowing? And so we talked a little more, and she came to realize that was in her thinking. It wasn't in her presence, that she's
a belief.
Yeah, it's a belief. It's something that she just happens to be thinking about next week. Like next week isn't even here. Like the evidence, if you're talking about evidence shows that we are right here, right now. And those things aren't really true. It's just things that you're believing. So I also know that thought is very powerful, and at the same time, it's thought, right? So it's powerful, and that it's our creative medium. At the same time, it's malleable, and we have the ability to use thinking, or we have the ability to allow our thinking to take us over. And I think many of us, if we don't know we have that option, we allow our thinking to take us over. And I allow my thinking to take me over too.
Yeah.
So these are just a few of the things I've learned. I mean, we can talk all day about the things that I've learned, but it informs my coaching too, is allowing that space to be quiet, right? If you're not already taking the space to be still and to be in awareness of the truth, it's really helpful for someone who's very busy to have that moment in the week where they stop and they slow things down. They start to see things for what they really truly are, and to question thought. Byron Katie says, you either believe your thoughts or question them. There's no third option. Something like that. She says, I butchered her thing. Yeah, but it's like you either believe your thoughts or question them. And she has a way of questioning thoughts. It's really powerful. So yeah, I know I said a bunch of things.
A bunch of great things. Yeah, and the nature of thought is, I think, a tricky one for people who are not yet or have not yet created the space in their lives for that stillness. And I think it's a hurdle to get over at first. to sit in that silence. It feels very daunting, I think, for people. That's what I often hear, to sit with the present moment. I'm curious, because you've worked with so many people now. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's this resistance to both the act of starting to practice presence, but also the importance of it? It oftentimes I hear, it's like, oh, I just don't have the time for this or that. And it's always a choice, like you mentioned. It's things that you're choosing to prioritize or not. And I'm curious, from your perspective, why do people have sometimes a harder time coming to that practice of presence?
I think a couple things. I think one is expectation. Like, we're taught that the goal is to clear your mind, or to go to this place of no mind.
Yeah.
So if someone who has not meditated before, or never thought about meditating before, sits down to meditate, and they realize, how am I supposed to turn this thing off?
I've always said, I'm like, calm was the wrong marketing for meditation.
Yeah.
It's a lagging indicator.
Right. It's so you can't expect to turn this thing off. So I think the expectation that people get frustrated on that. And then the thoughts of, what am I doing? Why am I just sitting here? Like those thoughts start to come in. So I guess the other thing the other reason is, ego. We talk about in spiritual circles, we talk about ego. Eckhart Tolle talks about how the ego can't stand the present moment. It can't stand it because it can't live in the present moment. Mind, thinking doesn't happen when we're super present. We're not thinking about the past. We're not thinking about the future. We're in this present moment, and the ego can't stand that, because the ego lives in the past and the future, which doesn't exist. So that's on a deeper spiritual level. But I think for most people on the surface level, I think it's that expectation of this clear mind that you're going to have, and when you run up against even more thinking, it's like, oh, I've lost this already.
I've lost this already. I think that's exactly what I think people hear. And that's what I hear in my own mind sometimes. Is I'm like, oh, there we go. Lost it.
Yeah. You yourself, you teach people meditation, and your life is dedicated to meditation. What are some of the things that you see come up? Like, what are some of the hindrances that you see come up in people around meditation, or around mindfulness, or even being in the present moment?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the explanation around the ego, and the ego not being able to exist in the present. And the ego is very wiry. It's very tricky. And it wants you to really stay focused on the future and the past.
Yeah.
It's an apparatus of orientation. And so when you release that orientation, there's this spaciousness, which is also the unknown. And I think opening ourselves up to presence, it also feels like you're opening yourself up to vulnerability, because there's this depth that you might not conceptually yet know is there, but there's a higher element of self that knows that it's there. And it can be daunting at first to step into that depth fully.
Right.
It's a new experience for a lot of people. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And I think there's a feeling of safety in being on the surface of life, of not going too deep, because the more that the present moment, also what it does is it peels off these layers of protection that you've put around your sense of self. And the ego also is very hesitant to give up those layers of protection. And so, I mean, I've sat with people, and I myself, sometimes you just burst into tears because you've sat in silence for a couple seconds. And that tells you something, that there was something bursting forward that wasn't allowed to be witnessed. And the present moment is like the ultimate witness. It's where everything happens. And so that, I really do think that's the acceleration point for spiritual development, is starting to exercise that muscle of presence. And it's a wild journey from there.
so before coaching, I did some acting years and years and years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I went through this pretty intense actors training here in New York. This woman named Susan Batson. She coaches like Nicole Kidman and all these stars and stuff. She's like
cool.
She's like the coach of the stars. Anyway, she had this program that was really, really, really super intense program. And one of the classes was called, I forgot the name of the class, but basically it was like the basic class that everyone had to take, right? And it starts off, everyone's in a circle, and each person from the outside of the circle goes in and they just not play a character, but they just kind of admit what's going on for them, or they just do whatever feels right for them. And everyone on the outside is to dive into whatever character they're being. And so after weeks and weeks and weeks of doing this, the teacher started to know us a little bit better. And I remember one time I went into class, it was in the evening. I think I had a pretty good day. I think I was having a pretty good day. And we went into class, and what they would do is after they go around and do this exercise, the teacher would come around and stand in front of each person and say, well, what are you aware of? What are you aware of? I even use that in my coaching sometimes. What are you aware of? I think it's such a great question. So we went around and we did all the things, and I'm standing there and I'm having a great day. And teacher's going around, and I'll never forget, this guy named Christian, the German guy. And so he comes to me, and I'm standing there, and he goes, Bryan, what are you aware of? And I said, I'm aware I feel good. I'm aware, my body feels great today. I'm aware I had a great day. I'm aware. And he goes, yeah. And he leans in and he goes, yeah, we know what's really going on, right? And I burst out crying.
Holy shit.
Burst out crying. Yeah, that's it. I can still hear him saying it. Yeah.
Wow.
That's it. So I think it's that.
Think
it's like, so like the people are afraid of, like, who knows? There's probably different ways you can analyze that story I just told. But one way of looking at that story is that underneath there was still that pain that I was carrying, or that challenge that I was carrying, that he was aware of, and he knew how to dig out of me. But maybe I didn't want to see it. Yeah. And maybe it was something that I needed to see. And, if we're talking about coaching, I think that's another, whether it's coaching or therapy, I think that's one of the benefits of coaching or therapy, is to have someone bring you back to the truth again and bring you inside. Okay, I get that you want this to be feeling this way. Maybe you are feeling this way, but I know what's going on. And let's go to what's really going on underneath there. And people are afraid of what they could find.
What's underneath there. Yeah.
Yeah. But what we really find when we go underneath all of that is the truth. And the truth is that we are all one, and we are love. And that's what that's the real truth of it. That we were all really one. Earlier on I said, we were talking about what's going on over there. And I kind of chuckled because over there.
Yeah.
Like, there's only there's only here and now.
There's only here. Yeah.
And when that's the perspective I like to sit with, this here and now. So that was my long-winded story. Hopefully it was helpful.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that totally lines up with my experience as an individual and with teaching, is just that I know we get a lot of heat in the spiritual community about holding space. It's such a marketed term now. But as with most of these things, there's a profound truth to it as well.
Yeah.
And I think the term holding space is actually the perfect term, because it really, really tells you what it is that's happening. There's this spaciousness so that you can move into the experience more deeply of the truth, like you mentioned. I think that's so beautiful. All of this ultimately is like releasing who you're not and embracing who you are. That's, I really do think that ultimately this journey is about that. But I wanted to loop back a little bit to, we kind of talked about this abstractly, but the law of attraction. So you and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that the law of attraction is the kind of stepping stone into some spiritual work. So I'm curious. I know you have some thoughts on this as far as it being from kind of two different entry points. And can you tell us more about that?
So the law of attraction is a lot. There's actually a lot there.
Yeah.
So in the spiritual world, there seems to be, from my perspective, there's more than two camps, but you could break it kind of up into like the non-dual camp and the deeper spirituality and looking just for God and inner peace, and that's like the goal of it. Mm-hmm. And then there's another camp is like, yeah, but how can I make some more money?
Yeah. Where's the car?
Yeah, I want to live like it's about having
which I get. I totally get.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to create, and nothing wrong, you want to create your own experience. You want to choose the things that you want. You want to align yourself with that. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's actually more overlap than many times is actually spoken about. That trying to manifest without a solid foundation, it's really frustrating. It's the same thing as trying to like paint something in the middle of an earthquake, like if there's or a tornado, and you're out there trying to draw something, or even trying to paint something on a canvas that's covered with a bunch of dirt and crap, right? Yeah. Without doing the clearing work, without doing the purifying work, without having a strong, peaceful, sound, solid foundation, the manifestation work just gets really frustrating. Totally. And it just cannot work. And then we could talk about the consciousness levels, right? Like at the lower levels of consciousness, you're constantly thinking about survival and all the things that can go wrong. Mm-hmm. So from a law of attraction standpoint, your thinking is about the things you don't want. And when more of your thinking is about the things that you don't want, that is your experience. It's not even like later on something bad happens. Like your experience right now as you're thinking about the thing you don't want and you're in hell.
Is the experience. Yeah.
Right. And so you're in that lower place. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that one, they're connected, right? And two, what it requires, at least in my experience, what I've seen it requiring is a higher level of mental and emotional mastery than most teachers are really willing to share. Oh, it's just easy. Create a vision board and write it down, and you do this and watch. Next thing you know, you'll have that really. And I think for some people,
do one workshop and you're good.
Right. Do this workshop, and and not to say that those things don't have value, but I think the way that I've experienced is there's a higher level of mental and emotional mastery that is required in order to do these things, in order to manifest or to bring things into your life. It's, so that's just kind of my perspective. And I think I'd like to see more of that honesty. And I know it doesn't sell to say, yeah, you ready to go through some hard shit?
You gotta do the work. Yep.
You gotta do the work. You want that, you gotta do the thing, so I know it's easier. And like, there's a book about the easy way to make $1 million. I'm like, man, Amazon, here we go. Let's go.
Add to cart.
Right. Add to cart. Right. And put it to the rest of the books. Right. So I understand. I'm speaking from experience, so I know how attractive that is. And for maybe some people in some circumstances, these things are easy to do. And maybe if you're doing them well, they are easy. But I also want to recognize at the same time that it requires mental and emotional mastery. And that requires a higher level of awareness. And that requires some things that are challenging, like letting go, like acceptance, like forgiveness. Oh my God, forgiveness. So I've been reading You've been reading A Course in Miracles recently. Yeah. That's my book now. It's A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles, and I've been reading this other mental science book by Thomas Troward. But A Course in Miracles, that's such a powerful book because it really does go through and do the cleaning work that's required in order to really experience the love that we all want to experience. So it could be taught as something simple. It could be taught as, manifestation in 3 steps. And maybe on paper and maybe in theory, those things could work, but in practice, there's a level of challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think you're always manifesting, you're always creating through how you're thinking and you're feeling. The turning point is you becoming more conscious of that creation. Yeah. And so I think that's when we start to talk about law of attraction, and you already mentioned this. It's like, if you're thinking about what it is that you don't want in that moment, that is your experience, and you're creating. And I think that gives people some anxiety when they hear that, because they're like, oh my God, like I've been thinking all these things and it's creating my experience. And I like to quickly point people to, yes, and that is something that can be hard to sit with at first, but it is a reality. And what an opportunity. What an opportunity to become more aware, more conscious, so that you can start to not control, but influence your creation.
Yeah.
That you can start to access those higher dimensions, higher up the funnel of consciousness, which, to your point, there is no way around it. You have to do the work in order to be able to consciously move from certain levels into other levels at will. And I think that is really the manifestation work, is really the consciousness work, and being able to move as you would like through those different layers. And it's okay if you're in fear. It's okay if you're in shame. It's okay. Everybody has those moments of coming down the funnel.
Right.
It's the tools that you develop, so that you're like, oh, I have the awareness of where I'm at. Now what?
Right.
Now what am I going to choose from here? And I think that now what moment is a very powerful moment.
Right. And, there's an interesting paradox that I've begun to learn too. In the Course in Miracles, they talk about one of the things they say, you need do nothing. And that's an interesting paradox, because doing nothing is so hard.
So hard. It's presence. Yeah.
It's presence, it's faith, it's a deeper level of understanding, it's a level of surrender. And, we may think of surrender, I know there's maybe some different feelings around the word surrender and some judgment around the word surrender. And it's not like I surrender, a you win kind of thing. It's like, it's acceptance. This is what it is. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. And I need to just be with what is. I have to just be acceptance of the truth and the way things are at this moment. So that work is definitely, I think it's underrated, the amount of work that goes into, or the challenge, I should say, that goes into what they're talking about in many of the law of attraction teachings. And I love those teachings, by the way. I love new thought teachings. I love new thought books. I love even the new thought and new age, and Esther Hicks and Neville Goddard and Ernest Holmes and all these people. I love those books, but at the same time, it's helpful to be aware of that path is also a challenging path.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned paradox. That's been coming up a lot for me personally. And in conversation, it's like the deeper you get into this, the more you realize there are these profound paradoxes that exist. I mean, it's just, I think we're like a walking paradox ourselves. So it's, in a paradox, for those of you, is that two things can be true that would seemingly cancel each other out. And that one could only be true if the other it has to be false. But a paradox is two things could be true. And like what you're talking about is the paradox of us being conscious creators, and you need not do anything. And that there's really two approaches there. It's similar to what you're talking about with the law of attraction, in that, yes, you can do the healing work. You can do all kinds of things to physically heal. And I think in the surrender experiment, the author, Michael Singer, I believe, talks about this. You can also fall backwards into consciousness itself. And by simply being in presence, profound presence, where you've relinquished everything. That's surrender. It's not apathy, like you're saying. It's not like, I give it all over and I'm no longer in the game. It's a letting go on a profound level of all of the attachments. And Michael Singer talks about he still has preferences, just not attached to them. And this falling back into consciousness is interesting because it's such, I call it a high vibrational experience, that certain elements of your experience that are lower vibrational just dissipate. And it sounds magical, but in my experience, it's also been true that it's doing nothing at the same time it's experiencing everything. And so certain things just can't travel with you. Certain questions don't even make sense in that space.
Yeah, right. We talked about that.
We talked about that.
That's really interesting. Yeah, 'cause I did, what's it called? I'm forgetting the name of the experiment now, but basically it was a way of meditating. You go really, really deep, and I would go beforehand I'd say, okay, well, when I go in there, I'm gonna do this thing and make sure I think about that. By the time I get, but then in my experience, gateway experience, there's a gateway experience, which is really interesting stuff. By the way, I got some really cool experiences from that. But then as it walked me inside deeper and deeper, when I got to that place, it just didn't seem appropriate.
Totally. Yeah.
From that place, it's like, it just didn't seem appropriate. I don't know how else to describe it. It was no judgment around it. It was like being in this expansive place, and I'm asking about how to make a few $1,000 more. It just didn't seem like it made sense at that place, at that higher level of consciousness. It was just incongruent. Those questions and those concerns just were incongruent with that space. The gateway experience was interesting. Yeah, incongruent.
Yeah, incongruent. Is that through which institution holds the gateway? I forget.
Is it Bob Monroe? I think the guy's name is Bob
Monroe. Yeah,
the Monroe Institute. Yeah. So I went and bought all I downloaded all of it. I probably went through the first 2 or 3. And then I put it to the side for a while, but I had some pretty interesting, some interesting dreams I started having. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was actually pretty cool. I highly recommend it if anyone is interested in having. They're really powerful guided meditations. That's basically what they are. They're really cool, and it's done with sound. There's a sound accompaniment that goes to it. It's really cool. But yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah. So you're right. Like at those higher levels, it's like experiencing those higher levels of consciousness, and some things just go there and some things just don't. They just don't. Yeah. They just don't rock there for whatever reason.
Yeah. And there's no one way, like I talk about so much, everybody has their own energetic constitution, and all of these different approaches, you'll find which ones resonate with you for where you're at. But, before we close, I have a lightning round for you, Bryan, that we ask all of our guests. Okay. What is consciousness to you?
Wow. You hit everyone with this?
I do, yeah.
God damn. What is consciousness? I guess I can answer it by saying consciousness is an aspect of God. It's an aspect of the Creator that allows us to be aware. It's the aspect of God or the universe or creation or life that allows us to be aware and to experience. So it's I'm surprising myself here.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's like it's I guess that's the best way of describing it. Is that it's the gift that we received that allows us to experience.
I love that. I really do love that. What is source, God, or oneness to you?
It's all that is. It's all that is and all that will be. And maybe that's not even a thing. Maybe it's all it is. I love in Hermetic philosophy, the way they talk about God, they don't use the word God. They use the term all. And that
I
once
didn't
I
know
read
that.
that,
Interesting.
yeah. And if you ever read, it's a book called the Kabbalion.
Mm.
That's where I learned it. I know the Kabbalion was actually written in the early 1900s, and it's based upon older Hermetic writings. But that's where I became exposed to this idea of the all. And to me, the word God is so has been littered. Has been people have their own judgments around the word God, but this idea of all seemed very simple to me. It's hard to deny that there's a thing that is called everything, and that thing is everything. You're part of the thing that is everything.
Love it.
That's hard. I think that becomes harder to deny.
Yeah, I agree. I like that definition, the all.
Yeah.
And what is one belief that you've believed in the past, but you no longer believe?
Hmm. Huh. So we go back to the law of attraction. And I spent a lot of time in visualization, and that whether I'm thinking of, I used to think that being in that imaginative place as much as I could was actually helpful for me. But then I came to realize that whether I'm worrying, and worrying is basically praying for, imagining what you do not want, or whether I'm consciously in imagination and creating what I do want, I'm still putting myself in a second-rate place now. Because if I think that the later time will be better, or some other time will be better, I'm implying that this time is not the best time. And if I think that later will be worse, that also makes this time a second-rate place. So either time, either way, whether I'm worrying or whether I'm consciously creating, I guess you can call it, or an imagination, it's making this time second rate, when the only time that we have is now. I found myself before, I have a 3-year-old, should be 4 in a couple months actually, and I have a 6-month-old. You may have heard her in the background a little bit earlier.
So
I'm not sure if I picked it up. And I found myself laying in bed with them and starting to visualize. What are you doing, bro? You're here with this beautiful baby. My 3-year-old, sometimes she sleeps with us sometimes, and she lays on my chest. And it's brought me to tears before, just sitting there, laying there with her and thinking about all the things that she does. And I found myself before being like, okay, this is my meditation practice time. This is my time to visualize. No, now, right here, right now, in this moment that's the only time that it could be, is now. And any attempt to escape that is second rate.
Make now the practice. Beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
And it's 100 years in the future. What do you hope for humanity?
Did we really embrace this idea that we are really all one thing and connected, and that the thing that I do, the way that I am to you, is me, that I'm really being that way to me, and that I can't separate me from you for too long, because it's out of alignment with with truth, right? The way that I am to you is the way that I am to me. And if we all took on that mindset, I think that really changes things. The most selfish person would give because I'm giving because I get when I give.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And the most selfless person, right? It works. It just works to understand that we are that I am you and you are me. So so my 100 years, I wish it would happen today.
Yeah.
Right. 100 years in the future, that the human race really comes to embrace that as true.
More deeply. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always talk about service, why people who have awakened to that truth naturally get into service to others. It's because of that. It's like you're giving, you're also receiving. That's why service is so powerful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you,
and
Crystal.
Where can people find you if they want to connect with you further?
I'm on Instagram. I think I'm Bryan Winston. Just that. I think I'm just Bryan Winston on Instagram. BryanWinston. I'm also on TikTok here and there. And BryanWinstonCoaching.com. If you'd like to learn more, or if you think a conversation would be helpful, I'd love to have a conversation with you and learn about what you're building and creating.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bryan. This has been such a joy. Always love talking with you.
Me too.
And till next time, thank you, light beings, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you for journeying with us today, light being. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And before you go, we want to invite you to explore the SoulPod app, where you can immerse yourself in daily lessons, guided meditations, and breath work to develop a soul-nourishing daily ritual and tune back into your own inner guidance system. You can download SoulPod in the App Store or directly from the show notes to start your free trial today and awaken the ancient wisdom within you.